to return to regular session, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second, please.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Next, we'll move to public session of the board meeting. It is expected that speakers will conduct themselves in a civil manner and will be ruled out of order for any statement that constitutes a direct threat against officers, employees, or students of the school district, or that is obscene. No personal attacks will be tolerated, nor should any speaker address specific district personnel or students by name or suggestion. Questions or comments concerning matters that are not on the agenda will be taken under consideration and referred to the superintendent for appropriate action. Members of the community may comment on any matter related to district business. The board president may request a brief description of the topic the speaker plans to address. Any group or organization wishing to address the board must identify a single spokesperson. Presentation should be as brief as possible, and no speaker will be permitted to speak for longer than 3 minutes. Neely Shaw, 2992 State Route 48. During a special meeting on January 8, 2021, Oswego City School District adopted a COVID-19 furlough resolution and declared that a driving factor was the district is legally obligated under the New York State Constitution to refrain from gifting public funds for any purpose. My questions are as follows. The Oswego High School and the Oswego Middle School have been closed since the beginning of the school year. Why did the Oswego City School District Board wait 5 months to pass a furlough resolution if there was a legal obligation to refrain from gifting funds? Why didn't the Oswego City School District have a contingency plan budget in place this past summer to deal with the situation? A cursory look at other school districts in Oswego County show that the furloughs have been used to maintain their school board's fiduciary responsibility since the beginning of the school year. 2, as per the board agenda, the superintendent is now putting forth brand new probationary, permanent, and provisional support personnel recommendations. Why is the Oswego City School District continue to hire new personnel and make permanent other support positions when other positions have been furloughed? Shouldn't existing furloughed staff be redeployed as opposed to increasing payroll and adding positions? Board members should be asking these questions and justifications for these positions required prior to approval. Linda O'Donnell, 54 East Avenue. What is the plan to return to in-person class attendance for secondary students? So far, I don't see one. The talk is that the construction project has been allowed to continue right into a normal semester time frame. Does that mean there is not or has not been an actual return plan? If students are allowed to return on February 1st, will construction be stopped or at least not in the stage that would affect the students? Why can we go about our daily lives, shopping, etc., while our students cannot go to school? Why are students in private schools allowed to attend and without much COVID issues yet our schools aren't? Why are other schools in our county open and have been, yet we are not? It seems we are operating out of fear, not CDC science. It has been reported repeatedly that children have a 99.9% rate of survival if they get sick at all. Let the teachers wear masks, shields, gloves, etc., like when we go shopping and open the schools. Other children are suffering. I want my tax dollar to pay for education, not isolation. Kara Murray, 60 West 6th Street. How much money was saved by the district March 2020 to June 2020 with students being remote? Where did that money go? How much has been saved for the 2020-21 school year by not having to pay subs, busing, electricity, and now furloughed workers? Where is that extra money going? Joan Newell, 4 Elizabeth Street. I'm concerned about the shortened school day with truncated class time that is being decreased further this spring. How will the school system address decreased instruction time in a school district that is already struggling with academic performance? John and Janice Metelsky, 296 State Route 176. Would you please consider letting the Fulton girls swim with girls varsity this year as they did last swim season? Amy Callan, 3239 State Route 48. I would like to know the specific reasons only varsity sports were recommended, and who did this recommendation come from? When we are constantly hearing the word equity used in decision-making, I am not understanding how this is equitable. Play can be done safely based on the experience of other districts and organizations. Why say middle school is okay to return to school first, but they can't start sports when the high school is waiting until March to finally return to school, but can start sports now? Every district around us is offering sports on all levels, modified through varsity. Fulton, Central Square, Mexico, Pulaski, Phoenix, Auburn, Cortland, ESM, JD, APW, and other districts. Why not have Family ID open to all 7 through 12 sport athletics? You said no decisions have been made, but the decision to only open for varsity sports, varsity speaks loud and clear. I wish we could be more proactive instead of continually reactive. Our 9th through 10th graders will never play, Our 9th and 10th graders will have never played high school sports until potentially 11th grade. That is unacceptable. And finally, I'm happy to hear the middle school and high school are projected to return to the classrooms after almost a year. It is a little bit too late. Damage is done, and now there is a lot to catch up, and damage control is necessary. Nancy Sawaza, 195 Ferguson Beach. Why was girls varsity basketball coach not rehired? I have been to many games and observed what a great job he has done with the girls. The community deserves the right to know. There are petitions with over 1,000 signatures demanding he be reinstatement. Jeff Pfeiffer, 1491 Gate Hill Road. In light of the recent termination of the varsity women's basketball coach, I would like to pose the following question to the board. Was it the board's decision to terminate the coach based on his performance as a coach, or did all just blanket the agreement to give the position to a full-time teacher with no less coaching experience? Jennifer Lacerda, 130 West Schuyler. I do not have a child in the school district, but I am reading about what happened to the coach. I was wondering what your reasons were for letting him go when these kids need him there and respect him. To do this to him with no explanation is not very professional on the school board's part. I believe you should address your reasons to the public. You should be in favor of what the kids need in the community, and to take a person away from helping them is a disgrace and not fair to these kids. Kevin Fowler, 75 Burden Drive. Please explain the decision process that led to removing head coach of the girls varsity basketball team. This doesn't make sense. His dedication and commitment to the program in the city of Oswego runs deep. He is one of the sharpest basketball minds you will ever come across. I remember the day he got the job and how incredibly excited he was to be able to share his passion and love of the game with the young generation of Oswego. You won't be able to find a more genuine and selfless person to act as the ambassador and representative of Oswego. If you want to be taken seriously as an athletic program, bring this man back on board. He deserves better. The city of Oswego deserves better, and the most of all talented girls basketball players in our town deserve better. Chad Zawaza, 8299 Lutzinger Lane. Why, after just 1 year, would you remove a varsity coach from his position when he is the first coach to dive in and view the program holistically? You have a man in place who is committed to building a synergistic program with from the ground up instead of only showing up and filling minimal expectations for his team. This makes very little sense to anyone outside of the decision room, and there are many of us who feel this could only be politically motivated and not what is best for the program. R. Clark, I would like to know why the varsity basketball coach was let go. The coach has put in a ton of time in with the team and in the right direction. James Babcock, 197 Ferguson Beach Road. I would like to know why, as to no explanation given for the coach to be let go. Glenda Orserio, P.O. Box 2064. Why was the head coach let go without any reason, any explanation? No one gave him a good cause. It should be taken into consideration to have him back. He put his all into these girls with no other coach can do. We want him back as head coach. Robert Bruins won Ryan's way. Why was the decision to remove the coach made the day before the girls' varsity basketball was slated to start? He's immensely popular amongst the parents and the players, highly knowledgeable and of sound character. Julie Chetney, 59 Jackham Road. Regarding the dismissal of the coach from varsity girls basketball, why was the decision made? Why was it made in the 11th hour? Was consideration given to the amount of this program has seen in the past 5 years? Does the amount of positive feedback and praises that this coach has received outweigh the negative? Could this dismissal have been avoided with consultation, education, and training to help this coach? Maria Churchio, 136 West Utica. Why was the coach let go? Karen DeCare, 1105 Middle Road. I'd like to know your view on APP process of students being moved up from 7th, 8th grade to participate in high school sports. Neely Shaw, 2992 Route 48. At last Tuesday's special board meeting, the Oswego City School District Board approved the start of high-risk sports, varsity sports, including boys basketball, ice hockey, and cheerleading. Estimated costs to support these teams are at a minimum of $75,000, including coaching salaries, transportation costs, cleaning, and other related costs to support approximately 100 student athletes. During the special board meeting, multiple board members brought up that the need for equity, and the obligation for Oswego City School District to focus not only on sport, but also on the students whose interests may not be in athletic. Given that, as a board, you believe spending $750 per student athlete to support a 6-week season is warranted. I think that is imperative that you should also make good on your belief of equity and provide support to other students' activities and academic support at the same funding level with the school district. For interest, if a
Karen,
Yep.
Mr. Shaw's time is up.
Okay. Kathleen Nice, 3 Kathleen Drive. Why would you let a coach go with no explanation as to why? Michael Reno, 9 Garrett Street. Based on the recent decision to release the 2020 varsity basketball coach, I was interested in the reasoning behind the decision. The program was going in the right direction with high quality, dedicated coaches there, focus on fundamentals, being a team, and most importantly, giving them life skills for when they were on their own to make the right decision in a very tough and unsettled country. Amy Callan, 3239. Could you explain in detail a few things? Why do our children's schedules need to be shortened? I believe I have heard busing to be the issue, but that doesn't make any sense to me. If you could clarify, that would be appreciated. How much learning is being missed because of the shortened day, and who is deciding what information is taken out of curriculum? Is there any parallel planning taking place in regard to offering our students? We have heard that getting kids back to school is the #1 priority, which while that is great, it's stating the obvious. The other committees are working, what other committees are working on other ways to make their experience better for our kids? For example, in watching board meetings of other high-performing schools, various district employees are invited to board meetings to share with their community the plans being made through slideshow presentations, conversations. Obviously, this is just one example, but I would love to see and hear what parallel planning is being done throughout the district. I would also love to hear conversations surrounding some of the fantastic ideas that were proposed by Mr. Shaw above. When giving us the numbers of positive cases of COVID in the district, I would like to ask that you share with the community how many cases were transmitted within the school and how many were from the outside the school walls. It is important because I think the numbers will show that transmission in places like schools is low because of the proper protocols that are being followed. And I will turn it over to the superintendent's report, Dr. Calvin. Dr. Calvin, you're muted.
Thank you so much. My apologies. Good evening, board. Great to see everybody back tonight. We have a number of guests who are on with us. And as we kind of move through this presentation, we'll move quickly through with our guest. And we have some questions that came tonight to the floor, and I think many of the questions will be answered tonight. All right, Matt, please go to the next screen. Tonight, in terms of my report, items that we're going to the emergency project update, we'll talk a little bit about that, the capital improvement piece, the budget in terms of New York State updates, school reopening plans for our middle school and our high school, civics information in terms of the follow-up report that was requested from the board, and then some follow-up information on athletic alternative activities for our kids, our modified students and JV participants as well. So we're going to move around a little bit tonight, Matt. So I'll let you know kind of where we're going first. I think we'll start, since we have our two medical folks on with us. Craig and Peter, if you can hang on for a little bit. I think I want to try to get them out of the way first, because one of the doctors is working in the hospital and he's kind of still there moving around. So I think let me get him going first. So Matt, if you can go to the school reopening plans for the middle school and high school, and we'll share a little bit as to where we're at with respect to that, and then we'll go back. So Mary Beth is on with us. Good evening, Mary Beth, and Mr. Mary Beth Fierro and Pat Wallace is on with us. And we also have a number of other folks on with us, and our two folks from the medical community, Dr. Morgan and also Diane Ogdenberger, on with us. So I wanted to share a little bit of where we're at in terms of school reopening plans. We are moving very diligently, board, with respect to reopening our schools. And as we are doing that, we have a couple of goals. Our first goal is to return our students to school. And then second, in returning them, we want to make sure that everybody is healthy and safe. So that's really critical to us, especially in the middle of the pandemic. We want to bring back some normalcy for our students, right? This is not just about one particular topic or one particular area. It's really about bringing normalcy to the greatest extent that we possibly can, and also providing high quality learning experiences for all of our students. Very critical to us. Go ahead, Matt. And so right now, just to give you some updates, right now we're looking at the middle school reopening or returning February 22nd. That's right after the upcoming break. Our schedule is going to be, a hybrid and a remote opportunity schedule. So students will have parents will have a chance to bring their kids in person for in-person learning if they'd like to, or still maintain the remote 100%. And then we'll continue to work with providing social and emotional supports, following health and safety protocols. And then we have some things happening with transitions and also our class setup and configuration and communications. So I'm going to start with Mary Beth. If you want to kind of, can you go back, Matt, please? Mary Beth, if you want to talk a little bit about those items, and then we'll kind of go from there. Okay?
Yep. Thanks, Dr. Calvin. Hi, everybody. We have been working very hard, a team of 35 people on our reopening committee, and then we have several subcommittees as well. Been working for about the past 6 weeks, pretty much daily on our reopening plan. And as of today, the good news is our packets went in the mail today to all of the middle school families. So thinking they went out afternoon to our ed center, so I'm thinking they'll probably make it in the mail tomorrow, be arriving at homes probably Thursday or Friday. And in the packets, families will find a cover letter that explains a little bit about the reopening, plus which cohort their child has been assigned to. So there's a cohort that comes on Monday, Tuesday, and then is virtual on Thursday, Friday. And then there's a cohort that comes on Thursday, Friday, virtual on Monday, Tuesday. And then there's the families who selected 100% remote. So there's 3 different groups. Attached to that letter is the child's schedule. In addition to that, we've sent home an 11-page document that's a summary of everything that we'll be doing in the middle school for part of our reopening. We also included a 1-page at-a-glance document that we thought if folks didn't want to read through the 11-page document, they could just read the at-a-glance. We met with a small group of students, just students alone, last week, and we came up with the top 10 facts that we thought hybrid students would want to know about when they re-enter our building on February 22nd. And we put a save the date flyer for people to hang on their refrigerators for the launch of our informational video. We have filmed a video similar to what the elementary schools did that will launch this Friday. I'm going to send it out via an email blast and also post it on our website. And we sent home today in those packets a save the date flyer for that, so people will remember to watch the informational video. So that's the good news. Everything is going out today, and families will know what cohort their child has been assigned to. We're at about 65% for our hybrid learners. On any given day, we believe we have, based on our numbers per team, between 150 and 180 for the number of students in the building. And we are making plans, refining them daily for dismissal from the buses, dismissal at the end of the day to go to the buses, how we're going to enter the walkers to the building, how we're going to enter the students who get dropped off in the morning, what time we're going to dismiss those students at. And all of the hallways have been taped off, classrooms have been taped off, all of the classrooms have been measured for the 6-foot distance in between the student chairs. And myself and our senior custodian, Rob Russell, will be walking around again tomorrow to double check all the classrooms. We do have a few numbers. We've gone through, my teachers have done it for me with a huge spreadsheet with every single section in the building and how many students are assigned per section per day. And we have a few sections right now that are 10 and above. So Rob and I will be walking around the building one more time tomorrow to see if we can fit one more desk in. If we can't fit a desk in socially distanced, then we will have to split the section and have it covered with like a teacher assistant or another teacher who's free at that period. So that's one of the last things we need to do is just double check all of our sections, and we'll be doing that again tomorrow. Any questions, I guess?
You want to go to the next slide there, Matt?
Yep.
Around schedule, Mary Beth?
Yep. So this is a comparison of the two schedules, the schedule that the students have been following since September 14th, which actually they're all virtual right now. So they all log on at 9 and get off at 2:20. And that is 4 hours and 10 minutes. I just want to confirm that I'm saying the right thing. That is 4 hours and 40 minutes of direct contact with teachers, 4 hours and 40 minutes. If you add up the number of hours of direct contact with teachers in the new schedule, it's actually an equal or an even 5 hours. So that is actually increasing the student contact time for teachers and teachers with students by 20 minutes. So I know there was some questions in the opening slide about decrease in time. We are not decreasing time at all. We're actually increasing by 20 minutes. And the amount of time in front of teachers in every single class remains the same.
Okay. Okay, boards, any question about the middle school at all before we go to the high school? Okay, go right ahead, Ryan. Or Matt, excuse me, I'm sorry. So at the high school, we're also working on their reopening plan right now. We are looking for an early start, an early March start. Approximately 65% of our kids are returning in person with respect to the hybrid learning model. Our schedules, again, we're offering both hybrid and remote. 100% of kids would like that. Our social and emotional learning and well-being piece is certainly being looked at. Health and safety protocols also being, making sure that we're putting those into place. Transitions are being worked on now, and then our classroom setup and configurations also being done with the help of our maintenance department. And then communications also, we're continuing to put that information out. Pat, if you'd like to talk a little bit about the high school reopening, please, in terms of where we're at.
Thank you, Dr. Calvin. Hello, Board of Education and guests. We are excited about reopening the high school. A lot of things that Mrs. Firo has said, we are doing the same things. We are remaining to have a 9-period day with as much contact time as we can have with students. Teachers are reaching out to students. Students are reaching out to teachers. Parents are reaching out to us. Like Dr. Kelly said, all safety protocols will be in place. We will have information week. We're working hard on schedules. We have all the faculty and staff are working together to make this happen, and the schedule's almost set. So we are moving right along, and we will be able to open by the first week of March. And I was going to say, then the students will be coming to school Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday, and they will be alphabetically split by grades. When we have a total number of students, we will divide them on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday and Friday. And we sent out a survey so we could find out how many students were coming. And we also, in the survey, was if anyone has any kind of special situations that they need to have certain days. So we've been also working through that. Dr. Kelly?
I have a question, Pat, for you. Is there any way, I mean, why are we shooting for early March? Is there any way we could open up at the same time the middle school's opening up?
We're not ready yet for the high school to be open up, Linda, to be quite frank. And we were trying to do one school at a time and then do the next school. We want to make sure that we get all the kinks out with respect to the middle school first, and learn from those issues to make sure that our high school also goes off pretty smoothly. So we really do need at least another week or so to kind of get those plans done and then open them up. When we began at the beginning of the school year, we started out by saying that we would open one group kind of at a time, elementary first, middle school, and then high school. And we're holding true to that. And our goal is to really get the kids in as soon as we can. But we sometimes we take on more, and then more mistakes occur. We want to do this and do it well and do it right. So we are asking for the patience of the community as we kind of work through getting everyone in one step at a time.
Another question I have is, any thought or discussion about bringing kids in during the summer and extending our school year?
No, we have not thought about that as of yet. Right now, we are just working on getting everyone back right now. That's our first priority. And certainly if there are children who will need summer supports or summer services, we will, as we do every year, we'll work diligently to make sure that those supports are in place. But our priority right now is trying to get everybody back in place as soon as we possibly can.
Thank you.
Sure. I saw two other questions, and then I'm going to talk a little bit with our health folks. Heather, I think you had a question.
Mine actually is a question for the health folks. So why don't you go to Pam?
Okay, Pam.
Thank you. Mr. Wallace, is the start time for the high school the same as middle school? Will it be 7:30 a.m. start?
Yes, that is one of the things we're looking to do to stay in sync with the middle school, so we can have everybody starting the day together. And also, what it does is it gives the older students ability to be home with the younger students, and we're working through everything we need to do to make that happen.
Great, terrific, thank you. And my other is not a question, it's a comment. Really, it's just a huge thank you. Mary Beth and your team, Pat and your team, the time that you've put in to bring all the kiddos back, thank you, thank you, thank you. It is much appreciated.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
And so just to let folks know, we are working diligently to ensure the health and safety protocols. So you heard Mary Beth talk a little bit about making sure we have desks spaced out. When kids are coming into rooms and going out, our goal is to make sure that their desks are being wiped down. Lockers are not going to be happening at this time. We want to make sure that we don't have congregating places for kids. Directionals are on floors or being put into place on floors. And then we'll have monitors and folks around to make sure that kids are staying socially distanced to the greatest extent possible. With respect to lunch and also breakfast, so we have a breakfast program where kids will kind of enter into schools and they'll receive their breakfast going to their first period class. And then there will be a lunch time, I know, in the high school, and we'll have people socially spaced out and making sure that those spaces are really safe for kids. So we just want to let folks know lots of health and safety protocols, and we're working diligently to make sure that we follow all the regulations that have been provided by the New York State Department of Health, and work in collaboration with our school physician and also with the local Oswego Department of Health. Diane Ogdenberg is on with us. Dr. Morgan, any thoughts that you might have or any comments you'd like to add to what you've already heard this evening? And then after you, we have some questions, I think, from Heather Del Conte and also Tom Siepa. All right.
I think that, again, I commend both Patrick and Mary Beth for working through the details. I think moving forward with getting the students back, the statistics have clearly shown that it's in the best interest of the students. It's nice to see positive changes in numbers, contactivity, et cetera, throughout the country, and vaccinations are going up. So it's an ideal time to try to cross this road together, where we hopefully will continue without a downward trend and then getting an upward trend of getting the students back. We have to remember that even with those other positive numbers, the 6 feet, the mask, the social distancing, the washing the hands, that we can never forget those three fundamentals, which we've been saying since July when we started this process. So I think we're going forward. I like the idea of starting in one school. The other one's a week or so later. I think we can catch up, quickly if things go well in the middle school. But this will let us concentrate on one place and get it right as best as possible right from get-go. Diane, anything else from your perspective?
No, I think we agree that, the protocols in place, those mitigation strategies are going to continue to be important. And as you bring more students in, it may be a little bit harder for you to monitor all those. So I think it's really important that those continue to be priority and reinforced with students throughout. I happened to be in another high school last week and got to watch some of their athletics going on, and the athletic director said, "Go take a peek." I go, "Believe me, I've already been watching," and I think the students want to make things work and they want to be in school, and I know the staff certainly does, so we're here to support that.
Okay, Heather, I think you had a question, and then Tom.
Yeah, so I've had a couple of people contact me in trying to fill out the survey and make the best choice for their high school students, and this would go for middle school as well. I'm not exactly sure where we're at with quarantining folks, but what degree of contact would a student have to have with a positive case to be quarantined? Because I think that's the thing they're trying to weigh is, do I get to kind of keep doing life as like I am now? Or if I take the risk of going to school, will I have to be quarantined for 14 days if I have like even just a subtle contact with a COVID positive case? So I'm just asking, what does it take to be quarantined?
Again, if everybody wears their mask, that's the most important thing. Originally, it was 15 minutes of exposure. They kind of dropped it down to 10. But if everybody is wearing their mask and it's just a casual crossing, then there's no quarantine necessary. And that's why it's so important to emphasize the 6 feet away, wearing your mask, washing your hands, so that we can mitigate the need to quarantine that many students or staff. And that's why it's so important to emphasize those 3 basic things, because what messes everything up is when they don't follow that, then all of a sudden there's a larger number of people. Can't let our guard down. Those 3 basic things are so important.
And I would just say, when we're doing an investigation in a school, it's painstaking, as some of you may know from past experience. And I think it's a credit to our staff a little bit that we really want to keep kids and teachers in school. So we'll look at, of course, as Dr. Morgan said, that close contact within 6 feet for 10 minutes or more will get somebody quarantined. They have reduced it to 10 days as long as they stay symptom free. So they're out a little bit shorter time for the quarantine. The other thing we do look at, and we still look at, and I know Onondaga just put something out, and they're changing a little bit at how they're doing it, but currently we're still looking at proximate contact. So we're looking at things as far as, is it a teacher that's positive in the room or a student that's positive in the room? How long were they in the room? Are they wearing masks? You guys are doing great. I mean, you save a lot of quarantine for the simple fact that your kids wear their mask at their desk. So how much time do they have without mask in that room? Are you keeping the doors open? So we look at that ventilation. Do you have the MERV 13 ventilation that was recommended to reopen schools way back in September? Are you keeping a door or window open in classrooms? So we're looking at all those things. We're looking on buses. Sometimes we'll go as far as like, put the time the kid was picked up, how long was this kid on the bus? How long were other students on the bus with this child? So I can tell you, we're working hard to keep those kids in school, but still keep COVID out of school. So.
Tom, did you have a question, sir?
Yeah, Diane and Dr. Morgan, do you know what our current positivity rate is in the county? And I know our 7-day average had been trending down quite low, but can you give me an update on that?
Diane, do you have the latest data?
Yeah, I do, because we just taped today, so I'm looking at my notes. What I reported today, our latest 7-day positivity rate is down to 2.2%. And our 7-day accumulated case count has decreased about 47%. So last Monday we were at 321 cases, and yesterday we had 173. So our numbers are going in the right direction. I'd be lying if I'd say we aren't holding our breath for the next week because of Super Bowl. College is back and things seem to be holding their own there. So yeah, things are definitely trending in the right direction.
Thank you.
I saw Linda's hand up, and then I think I saw, was there another hand up there?
I have a question for Dr. Morgan. What do we do, or what would be the protocol if we have an adult or a child that has a medical excuse for not wearing a mask? How do we handle that, or how should we handle that?
It's tricky. Personally, I think there's almost no reason not to wear a mask. And there are some special needs students that it may be more difficult. Then what I encourage in that situation is to have the other teachers go to a double layer. I wear a mask, and a screen all day long. And if somebody really, and it's really a very special needs student, this would curtail to, then the teacher or the teacher's aide may want to wear gloves. This is a very small percentage of people, very small percentage, but things to mainly protect the people around the special needs student who can't wear a mask. I can't think of any reason why a teacher or somebody else working in the school has an excuse to not wear a mask. I just don't. But for special needs students, I think there may be some special things. And then what you have to do is ramp up the level of protection for the teachers and teachers' aides who are going to be in the room.
Thank you.
And also just to share too, if we have a situation where currently, if we have a kid who has a challenge with a mask, we do, and we are certainly, Dr. Morgan has made himself available to reach out to and to consider, some people we have to customize situations to them. And so he will work with the families, with the child to find a customized situation to help.
Yes, we can find the right ones. I've got a really big head, so I have the ones that are tied up on top because otherwise I just don't fit in these things very well. And it makes a difference. So sometimes something as simple as a tie gives you a better fit. It's creativity, but you want to have creativity that's also effective. So that's the trick.
Mathis, I think Jim had a question.
Yep, I just saw his hand. Yep, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, so it's more of a comment or kind of a request. So I've been hearing from parents that are concerned that our kids are behind where they normally would be. And while I think to a degree, honestly, that is somewhat expected, I'm hoping that we can do ways to always look to improve. And because we don't have another meeting for another month, I thought I'd bring this up, especially since our, healthcare specialists are here. The CDC very soon, I've heard, will come out with some more reopening recommendations. And one of the things I'm hoping to see in there is a support of the science that surface contact isn't really a big spreader when it comes to this. And that it's possible our Deep Clean Wednesdays can be reevaluated and we can maybe use Wednesdays in a different way to help increase our instruction time. And whether it's having the kiddos in class and alternate A or B on a Wednesday or do more live streaming on a Wednesday, I commend those teachers, and I know my kids have a bunch of them. They're meeting for times on Wednesday, and they're holding office hours, and they are doing work. But it's not the same that they're doing Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And so as we're moving forward, and I will say as part of this, I do agree with the incremental steps. And I'm just suggesting this as another incremental step to keep in consideration as we move forward.
Yeah, so we are certainly open to considering, as much time as we possibly can to get kids in school. So we have a variety of parents who want them back full time, and we want them back full time, right? But we, one step at a time, and we certainly understand and appreciate your feedback, Jim. And, as soon as we can get kids back more and more time, that's what we're looking to do. So we've already started to try to do that, like at our elementary schools, right? So we've gone now from, just doing asynchronous to synchronous now to doing, pretty much everybody live streamed. And now our next step is to bring some of our kiddos back for 4 days a week, right? So we're working very diligently to add more and more, one piece at a time. And as we get started with our middle school, everything that happens is lessons learned. And our goal is to take what we see and what's happening, use that to inform decision making. And the more we can do, the more we will do. We certainly want to, get kids back. And as I said at the beginning, return to normalcy as best we can. So I'm in agreement with you, Jim, and I appreciate your comments. Board, are there any other comments tonight or questions for our medical folks this evening? Okay. All right. I know Dr. Morgan is doing some additional things there and stuff. I want to thank him for coming on and thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate both of you a lot. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, Matt, we're going to switch gears. Can we go back to the beginning to the emergency project update? I want to kind of walk through that for just a minute, and then we'll go back another time. So board, there we go. Great. So I wanted to just kind of give you a heads up, or excuse me, a follow-up rather, as to where we're at in terms of our emergency project. We have both Peter and Craig on with us this evening. So as of right now, in terms of the soil removal update, the design team has been working on, grade modifications for the floodplain to minimize removals and hopefully save additional funds from the different district. Nicely. We recently had our bids come back. We had 8 bidders, a mix of union and non-union. And the recommendation tonight in the packet is for Nardozzi of Geneva, New York. And then we have a number of dates here and some additional considerations that are happening now with the city. So I'm going to ask if Peter and Craig can just kind of go through things and where we're at right now in terms of the emergency project update.
Peter, I don't know if you want me to just mention that, we were very pleased with the results of the bids. They came in considerably under the revised budget that we had put together and dramatically below the original anticipated budget that we put on the table a couple months ago. So we're very happy with that. The contractor is very reputable and has done this type of work, and we're confident that they'll be able to perform the work with ease. And we're really looking forward to our next benchmark, which is hopefully pending your approval of the recommendation letter tonight, moving on to the city variance on the 17th.
Great. You want to talk a little bit about the unions versus non-union information that came in about the company there, Craig?
Actually, I'm going to pass that over to Peter because I think he had more firsthand information on that.
Here.
Good evening, board and community. Yes, I did have what we call post-bid questionnaire that we sat down with Nardozzi. It's somewhere around 30 questions. Some of them are just basic questions. One of them that is important, I know, to Oswego District is the involvement of the union trades. Nardozzi is not a union company. However, their parent company is a union company. And Nardozzi, during the construction of our soils remediation project, will have an operator board from Local 158 performing work, and they will also have an apprentice on board. If any issues come across Nardozzi with regards to needing more equipment, more operators, they have the ability to reach out to their parent company and pull from that pool of individuals as well. So I think we've got a good contractor. As Craig said, they are very familiar with doing this type of work. They also have one of their individuals that works there full-time is a level 1 and level 2 certified oh gosh, I shouldn't have said, if I'm forgetting the title now, but he's level 1 and level 2 certified, and he's got the ability to do all the paperwork that's necessary for submission to the landfill where all the materials that we have to haul off will be transported to. So I think we've got a good contractor. We're waiting for the variance to be approved, and they are ready to get started on the 18th.
Thank you. So very much appreciated.
Okay, and Craig, do you want to talk a little bit about the city considerations at all? We are going to be reviewing the modifications.
Yep. So the city has actually reviewed the design revisions, and they're just as part of the milestone with the city variance. Once that's issued, they will amend the permit for the floodplain. So it's kind of like just a checkbox they're going to send us, which is shouldn't be that big of an issue. But we are looking forward to the opportunity to present to the board, the zoning board, and have a favorable outcome on the 17th.
So we've got all of the items now done and approved through state ed. We've gotten our permits that have now been issued to us. We've got all the bids done. The last piece is the city piece that will be done. And then we're ready to go and get everything finished. So a lot of that, we want to thank Craig and Peter and the whole team from King for. It looks like this is really ready to kind of get going. This is the last step. Tom, did you have a question there?
Yeah, the only thing I just wanted to point out too, if people saw it within the community, that the city is doing a study in terms of addressing the flooding in that area as well. Not that it's, or they're moving towards getting the funding to at least do a study, not that they're going to be clearing those pipes or doing anything else, but to help address that issue in the area as well. So it's another plus.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. Matt, can you go to the next slide? Board, did you have any other questions before I finish this part off? And while both Craig and Peter are here, just sharing updates in terms of the phase 2 progress at the middle school. The NARI group is staffing the work and expediting the completion of the middle school. Siemens is on site working on controls as we speak. We're still on track for the 2/12 completion at the middle school with all their work. At Layton, the AD's office is really coming out very well. The drywall is being finished. The coils are being installed. The duct work should be in next week. I was there just this morning and last week, and boy, talk about progress quickly. It's coming along very well. At the high school, 95% of the music wing flooring is pretty much all complete. The gymnasium is cleaned and turned over to the district. We're checking on repair work status in the gyms. We had a couple of floors that had a little damage to them because of some of the work that was, but that work is occurring now. The winger installs are ongoing. And then at the site stadium, the concessions, with concessions, the epoxy flooring work is being complete. Equipment is being installed. And at the team locker rooms, drywall on the mezzanine is complete. And then lockers and benches are being installed as well. Craig or Peter, anything else that I missed, or are we good with that list there? All set?
Yes, sir. I'm good.
Okay. Can we go to the next screen? Just in terms of pictures, I wanted to show you some of the rooms there. I believe that is our orchestra room, if I remember correctly there. You can see that with all the panels being in. The hallways with the really nice storage systems being put in. And then you can see some additional storage areas in the band room area that's being done. So coming along very well, very nice. The areas are just, I think the kids are in for a real treat when they come back in terms of those spaces. Next picture, more on those storage systems in that same hallway area. Here's the hallway near the auditorium. And you can see all the walls have been done. Flooring and staircases there being pretty much all set there. And then more on the locker rooms there. And you can see one of the locker rooms with the actual benches now installed. Now I know they're doing some dusting and cleaning, but coming along very well. Peter or Craig, any other concern or any other thoughts on that at all with those pictures? All good?
No, just how bright it looks.
Yes.
Really makes a difference.
It's a huge difference, that back hallway and by the theater, the back theater entrance. Oh my word, it is like, wow, because it was so dark there. It is awesome.
Yeah. All looking and going very well. Okay, board, any other questions about that before we move on? Everybody good? All right, well, thank you. The phases, thank you. Go ahead, Matt. Sorry about that. So just in terms of budget, phase 2 budget summary, estimated percent complete is 96%. percent of billing to date, is at 91% for the work in place, 87% for paid to date. The percent of allowances used is 40.83%. And then the percent of contingency used is 8.01%, projected at about 25%. So we're really well on track in terms of this phase. All right. Any other questions from the board?
I just had a really quick one about the, so you guys installed the fence, and I'm wondering, is that fence the reason that the sidewalks aren't plowed for people to be able to walk along there?
Yes, ma'am. The fence and up there, we've actually, even with the braces that we have going to both directions and the sandbags, we had a windstorm a couple of weeks ago that actually blew a couple of portions of that fence over. So we had to beef up the bracing and the sandbags, but that is why the sidewalk's not being plowed.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. I think I'll make sure we touch bases with Dave to talk a little bit about the sidewalks. That's new to me, but we'll see if there's anything that can be done in that area. Okay. All right. Well, Craig and Peter, thank you. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Folks, have a good evening.
Thank you. Nice.
Okay, board. I think we're going to switch gears now and go to civics because we have some additional guests on with us, and then we'll go back to the budget and the athletics piece. So why don't we go to the civics piece there, if we can? So in a recent Board of Education meeting, we had a request to share a little bit about civics and what are we doing now with respect to teaching our students around civics and current events. And also, we have some information that goes with that part of our curriculum that also entails digital citizenship. So I asked our principals, especially our secondary principals, to come on, and they have a couple staff members who have joined them. If they all just kind of want to say hi, maybe wave at us tonight. And then we also have with us Carrie, who's going to share a little bit from the elementary portion. So I turn it over to Carrie and the full team tonight. Okay.
Hi, next slide, please. Hi, good evening. I'm starting the civic presentation with a quick overview of civic participation practices, part of the New York State K-12 Social Studies Framework. I pulled these out so you could get a snapshot of the vertical alignment of the civic practices and how they progress through the grades K through 6. The authors of the New York State Social Studies Framework states the primary purpose of our social studies instruction as a whole is to help young people develop the ability to make informed and reasoned decisions for the public good as citizens of a culturally diverse, democratic society and an interdependent world. Next slide. You'll see this reflected as I'm going to scan through these. I'm not going to read all these slides. It was just really the purpose is to show you that progression across, starting in kindergarten, going up to grade 6 with our participation practices. So you can see in kindergarten, this is really more starting out with the respect for diversity, starting out with the respect for others, going all the way to 6th grade, considering the views, alternate views, and discussions. Next slide. Again, you can see starting in kindergarten, they start small, egocentric, and move towards 6, participating in country in the Eastern Hemisphere. Next slide. Here we start with the political systems, and it doesn't start till 2nd grade where they understand their community political system and move out to the Eastern Hemisphere in grade 6. Next slide. Starting as the role of in the individual at kindergarten participation, and then again moving out to grade 6 when they are looking more at the role of our opportunities for an individual in various locations in the Western Hemisphere. Next slide. Kindergarten, very simply showing respect in issues involving conflict, moving out to grade 6 where they get into negotiating and compromising and examining the role of conflict resolution. Next slide. Here we look at the social actions that are required at kindergarten, identifying those situations, to moving it out to grade 6, where they identify situations in a global focus and look at actions required. Next slide.
Here, I love this one. At kindergarten, they identify the school principal and his role as the leader of the school building, moving out all the way to grade 6, where they look at the roles of people in power at the Eastern Hemisphere. Next slide. Here we start with kindergarten, understanding why we have rules in classrooms and schools, moving out to understanding rights and responsibilities of systems within societies of the Eastern Hemisphere. Next slide. And this is the last of the civic participation for K-6, and it is only in the intermediate grades, understanding independence and global communities. Next slide. This is just a snapshot of what those practices look like in a kindergarten standard, the key ideas, and some of the lesson activities that could happen around looking at rules. So that just gives teachers an idea of how to implement that standard within their classroom. Next slide. These are some examples of current lessons that have happened within our elementary school buildings. We have the Martin Luther King. That was an example that was done in the upper grades, reflecting the struggle for rights and access to citizenship rights. We have Inauguration Day, which was a role of people and to show the roles of people in power. We had the What is Democracy, explaining basic freedoms in our democratic republic. We had the kindergarten one, I'm sure you all recognize, Memories of Kindness, showing respect for diversity. And lastly, we had a grade 4 group project that was showing civic participation and engagement. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to secondary. Thanks.
Thanks, Carrie. When we were putting together the information for our secondary civic practices, I reached out to both Mary Beth and Pat, and also our team leaders for social studies, Jeff Brown at the middle school and Josh DiLorenzo at the high school. And I also connected with our 2 secondary level librarians, Gina Iorio and Mary Alice Brennan, to share their thoughts on the lessons and the topics that they teach through their library on digital citizenship. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation, and thanks for taking an interest in the program and asking us to come here and speak. We'll go to the next slide, please. At the middle school, we use current events certainly as a mainstay in our program, and we use it as an opportunity to try to invite students to become active members. We try to make safe places where they can discuss, where they can seek clarity on issues, where they can ask questions of others. We certainly stress the importance of reliable sources and accurate information, which is certainly key today, and Mary Alice, our librarian, will help to speak more to that. But we also want to make sure that the students, we set good examples for ground rules and how to have meaningful discussions in the classroom. So we'll use both historical topics as well as current topics to try to make sure we provide plenty of opportunities for kids to be able to participate, ask questions, and find meaning in what happened both in the past but also what's going around them today. Next slide, please. This is where it's supported in the New York State framework for social studies. They do ask that social studies teachers, and obviously at the middle school with the help of Mary Alice in the library, we make sure that we help kids analyze evidence in terms of historical and social content and context, authorship, point of view, purpose, format, bias. These are things that we spend a lot of time on, especially with documents. The social studies curriculum has us do it a lot with historical documents, and then every time an event comes up, we certainly use more current topics to address the same issues of point of view of the author, the historical context that something is happening in, and bias as well. Next slide. And this is the other part of the New York State curriculum for social studies, asking social studies teachers to help kids become active participants. So we do practice in demonstrating respect for the rights of others in class discussions. We try to get them to participate in activities that not just focus in the classroom, but also the school, our community, state and national issues. We have involvement with every academic team having participation, having elected officers for president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. We certainly have classroom representatives that work in the larger student council. We have elected representatives in our student council. Your National Junior Honor Society is about to release their fundraiser that I've been watching them work on, that is showing some great collaboration between 12, 13, 14-year-old kids and some of the major stakeholder groups in our community. So that's exciting stuff that we try to encourage our kids to participate in. And it is interesting to note that these really are 12, 13, and 14-year-old kids that we are trying to encourage to be active participants. And then also in the classroom, we work on persuading, negotiating, compromising in the resolution of conflicts and differences, and introduce and examine the elements of debate. So how to state an opinion, how to keep your cool during a classroom discussion, how to state supportive facts effectively. We work on all those things so that hopefully we can achieve that last bullet, which is to fulfill social and political responsibilities associated with citizenship in a democratic society. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Matt, next slide, and we'll switch over to Josh DiLorenzo.
Hello, and I appreciate being here and you guys hearing from us about our program. A lot of what we do at the high school is a spiraling up of what you just heard is happening at the elementary and the middle school. So the New York State curriculum, as was introduced to you, is comprehensive K-12, and it follows very similar themes and very similar beats throughout the entire thing. And so by the time the kids get to high school, our goal is to kind of expand on some of the engagement that they have done earlier on. So as an example, you know, they might study the structure of civics and current events and things like that early on. We continue to do that. We grow that outside the borders of the United States when they take global studies in 9th and 10th grade, and we bring in international conversations. So again, in the elementary, where Carrie would have introduced to you something on a very local level, right? And then later on, they might look at it on a statewide or, you know, community, you know, expand up from there. By the time they get to high school, we're going to go to a more international kind of a thing and talk about that in the context of the global studies curriculum. And then more civic responsibility when we come back as juniors and we go through the U.S. history curriculum again, in hopes of preparing them for when they will become citizens right around their senior year, when most of our kids are either late 17 or already 18 by the time they graduate. So for those guys, we take that civic responsibility aspect and we spiral it up to voting and the local government and engaging with local political bodies, sometimes with you guys, because the participation part of the participation in government curriculum that is the senior capstone to all of what we have been kind of discussing here today. Like that's the crown jewel. If it had a crown jewel at the end of this, as we, you know, want kids to participate in government, is literally right in the title of the course. So that is what we are kind of spiraling them up to. And that's the bridge to citizenship. So that's the class where they might register to vote. That's the class where like there's a lot more open discourse of like modern political issues at a level that clearly would differ from what they would have in the elementary and the middle school. You know, we might have the same kinds of conversations that Jeff was talking about, but we would have them at a much more adult level and operate clearly at the level of those kinds of things the kids would engage in. And the last, just so my three examples of that spiraling up would be like, say, the civics aspect of it, citizenship that we just discussed. And then lastly, that baked in concept of documents that you heard from the middle school and that I'm sure you will hear from the librarians is also something that we do, vetting of sources, reliability of sources. But again, because we have older kids, right? A number of our lessons, I know right through 9, 10, 11th grade, engage with the concept of social media and those kinds of ideas as sources of news that our kids are, you know, more prone to interact with. So again, it is a spiral curriculum, so we do tend to kind of follow some of the same things, just in a lot more depth, or again, more in a manner that our kids need at the high school to prepare them. All right, so that actually covers both of these things. So is there another slide to this that is ours, Matt, I think? Yeah. So again, current events, just to say that, again, is a backbone. I'm going to echo again what was said earlier, that, that is a backbone of what we do. As a social studies teacher, I tell kids that we understand history only so we can understand what's going on right now, and so we can understand tomorrow. Like, that's the only usefulness of anything that I teach. So that is everything that we do in some ways. But that's obviously just, a regular beat within the course as well, that we are doing current events. Because again, a lot of what we are doing is treating these kids like future citizens, all right, and wanting them to understand the history of their country in addition to their political responsibilities, so they can make informed choices. And again, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I concentrate on 11 because that's what I teach, but I know, again, throughout all of the curriculum, current events are a regular occurrence. And again, as ever in social studies, politics comes up, and we definitely attempt to stay as apolitical as we possibly can. And certainly, at least at our level, kids already have their opinions. So we're oftentimes managing opinions as opposed to installing opinions. So that's another nice thing that we also get to do, I guess, at the high school level, is engage with kids at a different level when they are a little more willing to speak their mind, and a little more politically engaged, and a little more thinking in that vein of the kinds of people that they're going to be. And that's kind of nice to see too. But, we do that as teachers all the time, I guess. And I think that's it. I think that's our last slide, and that's pretty much all I have for you, I guess.
Thank you, Josh. Next slide, Matt, and then we'll change over to our librarians, Gina and Mary Alice.
And here it is. Hi, thanks for inviting us to speak to you tonight. As you know, the information age has vastly changed how students research and gather information. So when the librarians gather their instruction and develop that in conjunction with the core area teachers, they use the American Association of School Librarian Standards Frameworks for Learners. And what you're looking at tonight, the standard that you see, really focuses on what we're talking about tonight. We stress seeking a variety of sources, collect information from diverse perspectives, and assess whether that information is relevant and valid, and again, organizing that information. Next slide. And as you can see, we have on the slide a picture of Abraham Lincoln and a quote that says, "Don't believe everything you read on the internet just because there's a picture with a quote next to it." And that really does sum up what the teachers and librarians do in our district. We have a big job in teaching students how to sift through just the incredible amount of information that's out there. So what we do is provide access to relevant databases. The district has access to some online encyclopedias, periodicals, and other reference sources that are paid through by the district, by the taxpayers, by New York State as well. And these are jumping off points oftentimes for students when they're doing their research. We spend a lot of time emphasizing how important it is to evaluate that information for its accuracy, and in terms of credibility and bias, as well as relevancy. And lessons that students might participate in would include learning how to access these databases, how to judge websites for their reliability, how to identify websites by their domain. And we spend time even showing them how easy it is to create a fake website or a news headline, and how misleading things on the internet can be. So it's always stressed to find multiple sources, reliable sources, and to corroborate your information. And that sums up what we do. Gina, if you have anything to add.
I just want to say thank you for allowing us to be here, and that the lessons we're providing students today and throughout, their high school and middle school career and elementary career as well, is going to provide them the opportunity to look at sources when they're 40, when they're 50, and to judge if that is a reliable source or not. And I think that's very important. As we know, there are some people who you just take everything on the internet as truth, and we really need to vet our sources. So again, thank you for allowing us to be here.
All right, board, would you all have any questions for our team? I see Mrs. Del Conte, I see Zeta, and I see Tom. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, it is so exciting to hear about curriculum. I absolutely love that you guys are here, and it's just so refreshing to hear about what you're doing in the field. So thank you so much for being here and bringing this information to us. I've had several kids, obviously, go through the curriculum, so I'm kind of have a personal perspective on it, and really appreciate everything everyone does. I did have a question about the local government piece. I know for a fact that, you know, when I took civics and all that, I never learned how to actually run for public office. I didn't know about petitioning. I didn't know about the whole process in terms of if I wanted to contribute in local government, what is the actual process? And is that something that's covered in any of the high school classes?
That would be likely something that might come up in participation in government for our seniors, but I wouldn't say that it's like one of those integral points that's going to make it, that's going to be a thread that's going to run through the entire curriculum. Meaning because we offer the participation in government curriculum in a variety of different ways. So that's the other thing I might have been unclear about earlier, that just to say we have that as a component. We also have that built into a high-level economics course that kids take, and they meet those civics requirements that way, or through the OHS Inc. class as well, which has, again, a government and civics components to it. So we meet those requirements in a variety of different ways. So I couldn't say to you that that would definitely be something that would be covered in all of those aspects, because it wouldn't be one of those core central things like participating as a citizen, like voting and registering with a political party. Like that would be the kind of thing that would carry all the way through. Not necessarily what you were describing as far as like talking about like the mechanics of voter, like becoming a elected official. Like that would not be something probably consistently through there. No.
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking, and I don't know, I know you have to fit a lot of things into your curriculum, but, you know, our community boasts of the youngest mayor and young legislators, and I think that's probably very empowering to young people to know that they can actually have a voice in local government. So just maybe something to throw out there is maybe.
Oh yeah, we'll take credit for Billy. We absolutely we instilled in him civic responsibility. So we're doing all right, I think, in a few ways. But no, point well taken. And we can certainly look into things like that. But I wouldn't say again it's not baked into what we do.
Zeta, I think, had a question, and then Tom, go ahead, Zeta.
I just want to firstly say that this seems like really interesting to me, and I'm really glad that this is something that we're introducing in the curriculum. I think a lot of students are really would enjoy this. I apologize if this seems like a loaded question or may not make sense, but as a student, I think I've seen firsthand how a lot of teachers allow their political biases to affect the information that they relay to students. So I just want to ask how you'll ensure that you provide a really morally objective curriculum for all students to form their own opinion.
All right, Josh, you handled the last one. So mostly just to be as open, as honest as we can. And certainly I know for myself at the middle school, because I teach bias, I also am sure to announce to the kids that, you know, as I'm making a presentation, I always call myself out, and I want them to get in the habit of understanding that you need to be thinking that way, even with your trusted teacher, that I remind them that I'm a certain age, I remind them that I'm a certain gender, I remind them that I grew up in a certain place, and I remind them that all of those things are impacting what I'm saying to them right now, and they need to take all of that in as they take the next step, which is to listen to and think about the information that I'm saying and combine it with what Mary Alice said, which is to kind of corroborate or refute what it is that I'm saying. So that is all part of the process that we try to incorporate and include.
Okay. Mr. Siapata?
I just had a question. When you're discussing reliable sources and social media, do you get into, with the older kids that can handle it, the concept of algorithms and how the media is working toward them. You know, it's being, I don't want to say pushed towards them, but it's being customized to reinforce biases. So do you explore that as well in content?
I'm aware that that's part of the OHS Inc. class. I know that there's a whole part of that one of the teacher, Mr. Richardson, who currently does that, does get into some things along those lines. And again, I'm going to say kind of similar to what I told to Ms. Del Conte earlier, that that would be something, again, I know is part of that curriculum and would come up. It's not necessarily something that's going to be, into all of those ideas. More in the framework of social media is the idea of reliability and the manipulability of it by people trying to push stories and news like that. But as far as the math behind it, that would be an interesting cross curriculum thing we could do with because those are all math. That's all mathematics basically. But those are some things that we might be able to be interested in as far as other courses and things like that. Would tell you, like stats would probably be a good place to discuss that as well. But again, more in the framework of reliability. So I don't think we get into the weeds like that. Probably a little specific for the things that we would do.
Yeah, I wasn't speaking generally of the math portion component, but the idea of how it is being customized to you and the same thing, just conceptually,
Absolutely.
so they can understand that as well. Great.
Gina,
Yeah,
did you?
we reference that at the middle school as well. Just the idea that some of the surveys that adults were taking was leading to, targeted advertisements and specific types of speech that was targeted towards their certain accounts. So that was something that was brought up, not just in 2016, but also the last election as well. That was where it made the most sense to bring up.
I think I saw Gina wanted to say something as well.
I was going to, yes, but Josh handled it very well, so I don't need to speak.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
Can I just say thank you all for coming out tonight and sharing with us? It's so very interesting. And again, I'm going to piggyback to Heather. So refreshing to hear about curriculum. Thank you again.
Okay, board. Any other questions for these folks at all?
I'm just wondering. I heard what Zeta was saying, and I think it probably comes from a place of experience. I don't think it was a critique on this department or on any particular department at all. And it may have just been something she threw out there. But I am wondering if maybe as we think about continuing education and those kind of opportunities, if maybe Mr. Brown or this department would be willing, for the faculty to maybe do some kind of a refresher course on bias. And it's especially important now, right, with everything that's going on in our nation, to potentially have just a refresher course in bias and what's appropriate maybe to think about when you're in front of a classroom. Just a thought.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to be part of any kind of program that we want to put together, and certainly Ms. Fierro is here. So if that's something that you want to talk about as we go, Ms. Fierro, I'd be happy to be part of it.
Jeff, I'm adding that to our faculty meeting agenda for Friday, and I'm putting you on it.
Sorry, Mr. Brown.
You can do it. No, it's a great idea, Heather. And Jeff, maybe not this meeting, but the next one. Thanks.
All right. Any other questions, board? Are we all set with these folks there for this evening?
Thank you so much, everyone.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And thank you, Pat and Mary Beth, as well. Please have a good night. Thanks, Pat and Mary Beth. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
All right. Great. So, board, I want to just kind of go back now to budget updates. We'll be pretty brief with that. Just to share with you by our calendar, there are some budget updates that we're supposed to be sharing with the board, and so we certainly want to do that per the calendar. And so we'll just share from the governor's state aid proposals where we're at right now. Okay, Nancy, go right ahead.
So right now, we don't have a lot of information. The governor's budget and the state runs that have come out are problematic for a number of reasons, which I'm going to get to. Just to let you know, I have been on numerous webinars over the last week since the runs have come out. New York State School Boards, New York State ASBO, Questar, BOCES webinar, and I've even viewed 2 New York State Capitol Conference presentations. And right now, the information that is out there is conflicting. And we don't have a really good gauge on what the state aid runs mean. So foundation aid, which is the largest part of our state aid, and it is the most general, we can use it for whatever we want, is flat again this year. And what the lobby efforts are being used down in Albany is to have the foundation aid to be fully funded. As last year that I had presented to you, the governor is again consolidating 11 expense-based aids, some of which are transportation, BOCES, textbook, hardware, and library material aids, into one services aid. This is problematic because all of these different categories have different aid ratios. And if we just lump them all into one package, all of those aids are going to be averaged out now, and we're not going to be able to get the necessary aids that we would need as a separate district from other districts. It also poses a problem because the services aids have been backfilled by the federal CRRSA funds, which is the Corona Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriation Relief Act. And so what that means is the state reduced our aid for this year by $544,643 in those expense-based aids, and is now backfilling that with federal dollars. And it is also going to negatively impact districts that share services through BOCES and those that have increasing transportation costs. Next slide, Matt. So transportation aid, the governor is allowing for delivery of student meals, instructional materials, and provision of internet access, but that is for the spring of 2020 only. Something that has been added to the school runs this year, which was never part of it before, is the STAR reimbursements from the state to the school district. And that is the school tax relief exemption. It's never been a part of the state aid runs. And what the governor is doing is he's backfilling the STAR with the CRRSA federal funds. So what I've been hearing is that we're headed for a cliff, because we cannot keep using one-shot revenues to fund state shortfalls. Next slide. So a quote from Betty Rosa, who at the time I had done this slide was the interim New York State Education Commissioner, but is now the commissioner. We cannot balance the state budget on the backs of our students by forcing school districts to use federal funding to fill the holes left in their budget by a decrease in state aid. This is what we continually fight. Next slide, Matt. So there is some good news. There is going to be a full restoration of our state aid that was withheld in 2019, 2020, and any aid that has been withheld to date from 2020, 2021. For us, that's approximately $608,000. What we had heard initially was that we would have this aid refunded to us in March. At the Capitol Conference that I viewed the other day, it's uncertain because now the state is saying that we won't get that until the state gets their federal money.
Right.
Next slide, Matt. So here is our state aid. As you can see, our foundation aid is $18.6 million, almost $18.7 million, and it is flat. There is no increase in that. Services aid is what I talked to you about before, which is the consolidation of 11 expense-based aids, and that is going up by $1 million. Universal Pre-K is a federal program, and that is remaining flat. High-cost, excess cost aid, which is the aid for our students who are in BOCES programs or in district programs with special needs, and that has decreased by $105,000, almost $106,000. Private excess cost is up minimally for $1,481, and that is for students who are in residential programs. Our building aid is reduced slightly by $317,911. Next slide, Matt. And this is where it gets interesting. So in our budget last year, we had something that was called a pandemic adjustment, which is where the governor had taken money away from us and backfilled that with the federal CARES Act. And we had to use that for specifically for PPE, and we had to share that with our non-public schools as well. So STAR payment, this we had never seen on our runs before. STAR payment is not state aid. It is actually part of a reimbursement from the state for STAR payments that are to our taxpayers. So we're seeing that as a decrease of $216,000. But you see something called the local funding adjustment. So they're putting the STAR payment in, but then they're taking it out and they're backfilling that with federal dollars from the CRRSA. The CARES was that's just showing that we're not getting that this year for 2021-22. And the COVID-19 supplemental stimulus is $3.9 million. Unfortunately, we can't continue to use the federal dollars, as I said before, to balance our budget. The state still has about 4 to 6 more weeks until they have to finalize their budget. And so what you're seeing right now is just proposed legislation. It hasn't been enacted yet. So total funding plus STAR, it looks like we're getting more money, $1 million. But when you take the federal money completely out of it, we're actually getting a decrease in our state aid by $1.6 million. Next slide, Matt. Are there any questions?
Nancy, do you think that this is happening because of Biden's $1.9 trillion plan that he's thinking money will be coming to us anyways?
Well, what we do know, Linda, is that the governor used $6 million from the December stimulus package in order to make school districts whole for the 1920 and the 2021 budgets from the state that they withheld. The governor is hoping that the next administration will give another stimulus package of about $15 million. If that were the case and the state got another $15 million, our state aid runs would look different. But right now, it's all a guessing game.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Nancy, I'm more of a statement than a question, but did you sit in on the Oswego County School Board's meeting with Will Barkley and Patty Ritchie the other night?
No, I missed that one.
I said, and similarly to previous years, last year as well, they're in agreement, are going to push back on that consolidation of aid. You know, they are totally against that, but it also brought up the point where we need to be advocates and proactive in terms of making phone calls to them to support that all the way up, because they said it does make a difference. We need to reach out to them, both Will and to Patty Ritchie, and then straight up to the governor and say how vocally we are against that. You know, but the other point that they expressed as well is that even if the federal funding does come in, that next year and the year after is when we're looking to get hit really hard. This is a temporary Band-Aid, but because we don't have the revenues coming in the state yet, they're better than they were projected, but they're not what they need to be, that we are looking at a perilous fiscal situation in the subsequent years.
Yes, yes. Yes, there's a multi-year, multi-billion-dollar deficit that we're looking at down the line. So yes, Tom, you said it perfectly. Yeah. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, Nancy, I want to thank you very much. And board, we have one last piece, and then I'm all set. And that's just the athletic follow-up. And Matt, if you can kind of go forward to that piece. So at our last board meeting, we had a request. Could we do something for our kids who are used to participating in modified sports and also JV sports? And what we do, we were kind of talking to figure out what we might be able to do. And so there are really two opportunities that we're thinking about, keeping in mind that time is limited right now because the next season starts in less than 3 weeks. So time's running kind of short. But what we were thinking is for our OMS students, what we'd like to do is offer some intramurals opportunities for them at the middle school. We believe that we could run those, for a couple weeks there and do a nice job for our kids and do those really safely for kiddos. And then for those kids who would normally do JV sports, the piece that we offer right now is basketball. We're thinking that we can offer probably 1 to 2 basketball JV clinics. And in those clinics, we'll certainly focus on strengthening. We'll do some workshops and some fundamentals that kids might really be interested in that will help them to continue to move forward, basically. So those are our two ideas. Rhonda, did you want to add anything else, or you're all set there?
We're all set.
Okay. Any questions at all, board, on those two ideas? And certainly what we would be doing is putting this together, rolling this out to our parents. It'll take us a little week or so. We have break coming up next week. So we'll be that following week putting information out to people and letting them know about the details of this. But these are the two ideas. Pam, I'm sorry, did you have a question there?
No, this is great. Thank you so much for looking into it and the group for coming up with that. And this is probably for Rhonda, and I probably know the answer, like indoor track and fields, because there's just really nowhere, a facility for them to practice at.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's where we're at a holdup with that particular group, because unfortunately that's like the one sport that's the no cut. But without a facility, I just wanted to double check that that's still where we're at that. Can't find a place for them.
I believe that's correct, right, Rhonda?
Yes, as of right now, Section 3 still has that postponed.
Okay. Heather, I'm sorry, I saw your hand there, Heather.
I think Linda may have been before me. Linda, did you want to go before me?
Linda?
Oh, you didn't mean to. Okay. My question was about the intramurals. Is this something, obviously, is after school, and is it something that you're thinking that will continue even after we start the potentially the fall too, if that goes through?
Rhonda, I believe that the intramurals are after school, if I remember correctly. All right, and correct.
Intramurals are typically held after school. Yes.
Yes, and it may go in terms of a couple weeks. Is what we're thinking. We need to kind of work out some of those details yet with Mary Beth because she's just trying to reopen. But it'll be a couple weeks at least that we'll try to offer for kids. I'm not thinking it's going to go to the end of the year, but at least.
Whereas Mark Pryor has served the students and staff of this school district for the period January 22nd, 1987 to the present, and has been a most responsible, conscientious, and dedicated staff member in service to the school district. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Board of Education of the Oswego City School District hereby acknowledge the faithful service of Mr. Pryor upon accepting his resignation for the purpose of retirement from the position of School Security Officer effective January 30th, 2021, and we express our grateful appreciation to him.
Motion, please.
Move it.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
No, I just like to say thank you. That's amazing. And thank you for all the years that you've shown to the district and service. So thank you very much.
Yes, Mark, thank you so much. And your face will definitely be missed by faculty, staff, and students. Congratulations.
Absolutely. Okay.
Excuse me, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
B, a professional staff recommendation, leave of absence, Angela Tombolillo Thomas, reading teacher at Riley, extending a leave through June 30th, 2021. C, extra compensatory recommendation, 2 additional special education tutors added to the group. D, extra compensatory recommendation, a club pause for our SAD club at the high school, and it will be retroactively effective back to October 1st. E, our OHS fall sport recommendations as presented, and then F, another batch of winter sport volunteers.
Motion, please.
Move it.
Second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
I'd just like to point out for some people that I know it's brought up before, these are not new appointments. There's not being new positions. We are not creating anything here. These are as needed basis, but we just have to approve them at this time. And that's I'm just making that statement because I know some people have made statements regarding us doing new hires, but I just wanted to clarify that. Am I clear on that?
Absolutely, Tom. And certainly our professional staff appointments, when folks take, let's say, leave of absence as a teaching position, we do need to fill that in some capacity. And in the civil service world, there are very strict guidelines and laws about folks who are getting a probationary appointment, a permanent appointment, and certain timelines that we must follow. So there were a few cases where as folks were maybe getting furloughed or returning from a furlough, they were also coming up on that deadline for being able to get their permanent appointment. So sometimes you'll see those categories crossing over, but not because we're hiring, let's say, new folks in place of those, but just because we also have to follow the law in that regard.
Right. Thank you. And I appreciate that. That's because I know people had questions about that. So that helps clarify that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All in favor?
So can I ask a quick question real quick, please? So I see that we have 2 varsity football assistant coaches, but not a head coach. Was that done previous to this board, or are we still searching for that position?
No, actually, Jason Primrose was appointed by this board, but previously, because there was some discussion about it late last summer, I believe. That was the one fall appointment that we had put forward. I could go back and give you the exact date. I don't have it off the top of my head, but that's why we're bringing on the assistant coaches now.
Okay, that's fine. I thought it might have been at the tail end of the last board. That's why I didn't remember it. Of course, I may have just missed it from the beginning, but thank you.
You're very welcome.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, and then new G, extra compensatory position recommendation, OHS winter high-risk sports girls varsity basketball head coach Joe Babcock as presented.
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, in the line of discussion, I first want to just make it very clear that the resolution was removed last time we met, but there was never anyone fired. So that never happened. It was removed for reasons of investigating, that particular position and just making sure that we made the best decision possible, but nobody was ever fired. So we can take that concern off the list of all of the concerns that were brought up during our public session. I also wanted to say that I appreciate those who understand and respect the board's obligation to keep personnel matters confidential. When it comes to athletics, I believe that decisions should be program, namely personal growth of as many kids as can be accommodated without compromising the intended benefits. The girls varsity basketball program at Oswego High has been plagued for a few years, several years actually, with declining numbers and some very serious issues that undermine the mental and emotional well-being of our athletes. I'm personally looking for a hero for this program and a coach who has the skill set and the experience to reverse that trend.
Any other discussion? I will now do a roll call vote, please. Kathleen Allen is absent. Tom Chapa?
Yes.
Heather Del Conte?
No.
Pamela Dowd?
No.
Lisa Glidden?
Yes.
James McKenzie?
Yes.
Linda Serino?
Yes.
The vote has passed 4-2. Next resolution, Dr. Sweeney.
So we have our support staff recommendations. So starting with new H, leaves of absence, Marie LaTulip and Lauren Perry. I, a probationary appointment for Alicia Costello, dispatcher at Transportation, and Marissa Johnson, our typist at the Ed Center. J, our group of permanent appointments as folks finish their probationary period. K, a provisional appointment, Mike Wilson, computer specialist at the Ed Center. And L, our new group of substitute and temporary employees.
Motion, please.
Move it. Oops, I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. Next is finance with Nancy Squires.
A is for the board to approve a contract with Solient Health for speech language therapy services at $85 an hour. B is for the board to accept the bid awards for the athletic supplies and equipment. And C is for the board to approve Nardozzi Paving and Company for the soil remediation project at a cost of $1,605,000 as presented.
Motion?
Move it.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Nancy, I was just trying to understand the bid process for the athletic gear. Are those several different several different companies that are receiving the bids?
We had 17 vendors respond to the which we sent information out to, asking them for pricing. We had 10 responses, and then we look for the lowest pricing on each of the bid items, and that's who gets the awards.
So you're able to accept separate bids for different items, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yes. Normally our bids like this go through BOCES, but BOCES did not have an athletic bid for these items, so we went out and did our own bid.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
So I have a quick question on the bid for the soil remediation. Once we pass this, do we have to bring back to the board about bonding this, or does our previous resolution just allow you to go bond that money and we can just move forward?
Nancy, go ahead.
So, are you talking about borrowing the money for the project for the soil remediation? No, we don't have to go back to the board.
Okay. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Next is the student representative discussion. Zeta?
I think all the questions I have will be answered at the reopening committee meeting tomorrow.
And then next is items from the board. Would any board members have any items tonight?
I would just like to say one thing regarding the basketball head coaching situation. And it's not anything to do with that in particular, but there's a great deal of outpouring over this event from the community. And in actuality, what Heather had said earlier, we just made the decision to pull it, but everybody jumped and made the assumptions of what was happening. But sometimes we took a lot of energy, a lot of time and addressed this issue. And considering where we are now in the pandemic and everything that's going on and all of the challenges that we have in front of us, the energy sometimes that's taken on this, I really want to put on our educational components. I mean, we're starting to do that. We need to do everything we can to help kids catch up, get them back in school. And again, just to make that statement that we are doing that. And I see all the advocates for sports, and they're great, but I want to see the advocates for education. And I think that's us right here, but I want to see more of it, because if we're going to make those next steps, we have to focus on that. intensely. So I just wanted to make that point because it's frustrating sometimes because we get a great outcry for sports and it's a component of education, but it's a component and I want to see it, that encouragement and that energy be focused on our education. So that's just my personal 2 cents.
Thank you, Tom. I agree with you completely.
I actually prepared a statement that I'd like to share with folks tonight, and it kind of piggybacks on a little bit of what Tom just had to share, if I could. I've served both on the school board and the county legislature. Compared to county government, this community's level of participation and investment in the work of the school board is refreshing and welcomed. I truly appreciate respectful dialogue that embodies a global perspective. I've never minded diverse perspectives that challenge my own paradigm. The hallmark of every school board member should be a passion for personal growth and lifelong learning. That said, in my nearly 9 cumulative years of representative service here, I have learned to listen to the still, soft voice of the majority. I am moved to action by voices that help institutions learn what they need so that all boats may be lifted by a rising tide. Thank you to everyone who has courageously contributed to that end, because as a community and a school, we cannot give away what we don't have. How can we ask the very population we serve, our young people, to be respectful of others if we model a reactive culture of disrespect? If we respond to disappointment or misunderstandings with attacks on social media, how can we ask our youth to be different? I'm burdened by the tendency of a few to launch inaccuracies and promote defamatory statements publicly without first seeking a clear understanding, offering grace, or trusting there may be more to consider than one's own opinion. This is the Oswego City School District. There's no power to hoard here. There's no money to be earned here on the board. Here, we wrestle to support a multi-million-dollar venture to grow young people, our young people. Here, we do not offer benefits based on a person's last name, their community associations, or their local history, or who they know, or who they're related to. Here, we do not withhold opportunity based on an individual's family circumstances or place of origin. Where we may not be able to speak to the specifics of every decision based on our legal obligations, we rest in the understanding that, although a self-motivated gong may be resounding in the halls of social media and opinion editorials, our decisions come from a place of personal conviction, enhanced by a commitment to listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. I just want to remind everybody out there in the world, it's time to be kind. It will get us so much further. Please, just be kind.
Next on the agenda is adjournment. Dr. Calvin?
We need to.
I can do it. I'm going to move to executive session. Make a motion to move to. Is that what you wanted, Mathis?
Yes.
Yeah, for what purposes?
I saw Linda was trying to say something. I'm sorry. Was she?
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to thank Heather for her statement. It was beautifully put and so proper. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
At this time, would the board like to move to executive session? Reason?
I think to discuss negotiations.
Negotiations, possible litigation, and the work performance of a particular staff and employee.
Okay. Motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Would there be a need for a vote after executive session?
No.
No, I don't believe so.
All in favor? Opposed? You may move to executive session.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Karen.